Hi, I'm Prof T, and welcome to iHeart Academia. This video is about how to study for a history exam. I was a history major as an undergraduate, and I also went to graduate school for history and got a PhD. And I've been teaching students as a history professor for the last 4 years. So I understand that this is often a tough place for students and a question that students often ask me. The best place to start is with excellent course notes, but that is a topic for another video. So let's keep going. The first thing to do when studying for a history exam is to check your course syllabus for readings and topics that have been covered so far in the semester. Make sure to photocopy or snap photos on your phone of any notes that you've missed. Talk to your classmates and get notes from them. Now, perhaps the hardest thing to do first is to make sure that you've finished reading everything that was assigned to you already in the semester. But it is the right place to start. So I have a story about this slide. When I was a freshman in college, I took my first advanced level history course. And I did not do as well as I hoped I would do on the first exam. And so after the professor handed back the exams, I went to see him in office hours. And I asked him, what is it that I could do to do better? Well, his response to me was very simple. He said, "Did you make a timeline?" I said, "A timeline?" And he explained to me this simple concept. Every single date that you see in your course notes, you add to a Word document with what happened next to it. And suddenly you go from lectures that are thematic, telling a story, to a point-by-point chronology of the past. And so as you are creating this timeline, you are rereading your course notes from beginning to end, which can be another great way to remember what it is you've covered so far. A great piece of advice was given to me by one of my professors in college, and that was to ask myself where his or her lectures overlap with the course readings that he or she asked me to read. Where do the readings overlap with the lectures? And that is going to be where the core material of the exam lies. The places that connect from the course overall to what the professor has said. And I can't stress this enough. If your professor gives you a study guide, fill the whole thing out. Spend the time to define the terms. Spend the time to determine how you would answer the questions that the professor gives you. Do the study guide. Now, it's very true that not every professor gives a study guide, and that's why I have this other piece of advice. Write your own exam questions. This forces you to use your analytical skills and your reasoning to think about what has been covered in the course so far, the themes your professor has emphasized about politics, society, culture, and come up with your own questions about them. Then, spend the time to write out answers to your own questions, drawing on evidence that you've read in any of the primary sources you've been assigned, drawing on facts that you've learned in a textbook or other source, or lecture notes, and use your ability to tell a story or a narrative to show what you've learned. Now, this one is definitely a new tip that I've thought of more recently in my teaching, and that is to write up your own periodization for the class, which means how does the class fit into a timeline? Is it about the Middle Ages? Is it about the early modern period, the late modern period? Is it ancient history? How is the course itself divided up? Divide up the course into centuries and ask yourself if you know what happened during those centuries. For instance, the 16th century. Was it the age of the rise of the Spanish Empire? The Renaissance and Reformation? Was the 17th century the rise of the Dutch, of the French, of absolutism in England and absolutism in France? Did the 18th century see the Enlightenment and the French Revolution? Think about what you know. Now, many of you may have thought that I would have started with tips for memorization, because it's a typical idea that history is all about dates and battles. and things that you need to memorize. And in that case, sure, I recommend using note cards to write out those things, or to write them again and again in a notebook. That can help. But a history exam is also about you showing how you interpret the past, how you understand things. So ask questions like, why was something significant? How can I place it in a larger context? Why does it matter beyond its own exact moment? So think about those facts that you've learned, those people that you've encountered, and ask yourself why they matter. Why are they worth knowing about? What do they tell us about something larger, about the society, or about the culture or the economy of the time that we've been studying? Now, at this point, we've discussed a lot of the things that you can do on your own, but studying for a history exam, this should be something that you do with other people. It means go make an appointment with a friend to have a cup of coffee or have a meal together where you discuss the class, what you've learned so far, or the readings, or a study guide the professor gave you. And go see the professor in office hours. Your professor wants to help you do your absolute best on this exam. Now, this is one of the hardest pieces of advice, and that really is to just make sure that you organize your time and block out the time that you will need to study and finish the readings before this exam. Don't leave it to the last minute, and don't stay up all night right before the exam. It's not going to help you do your best. Instead, take care of yourself. Practice the self-care you need to feel ready to go on the day of the exam. Have that blue book bought well in advance. Have that pen ready. Wake up a little bit early and get that cup of coffee so you can walk in there feeling ready to go. You know what? I think you're ready to go, and I think you're going to rock this exam.